So yesterday I watched, I don't know, about a 26 or so minute video. Jonathan Cahn and Greg Hunter. Greg Hunter's more of a financial kind of news analyst kind of a deal. And he had Jonathan Cahn on, you know, it's basically a Skype. And he's the guy, Jonathan Cahn is the guy I told you I got the book that Lindsey Williams' elite friend said for him to get. So I got the guy's book. It's the latest one that he's put out. Now the one before that, I think he sold over 2 million copies, and it was called The Harbinger. This one I think is called The Power of the Shemitah, or the something of the Shemitah. And again, this is the guy with the cycle, the 7-year Shemitah cycle, but the blood moons, coincide with this one. This is gonna be like the big one, which is why he feels. Which in the video interview he said, going back way far back in history, I mean, I can literally show you rising and fall and the falling parts of major empires of the past. And he said, this cycle actually within 2 weeks of some part of this cycle, he says, it was announced that China had surpassed, the U.S. In some basically as an economic powerhouse. And he's like, to be within 2 weeks of this particular point in the cycle, that's like a, look for a sign, look, there's something that should be happening now. Again, you can look back throughout history and see this. So he says, I think what we're going to see is definitely the economic and financial collapse. It's not just going to be of the U.S. It'll probably be worldwide. And he mentions how this day, what is it called? It's part of that cycle, and it's also in the Bible, and it's like Lul 29 or Lul 29, and that's a day of like cleansing of the dead. Okay. And he talked about, we had this 7-year cycle, as a matter of fact, around 9/11 time frame. And the stock market, that tech bubble burst time frame. And basically I started thinking, he's like saying this debt is going to be wiped away. And he said, if you look at, he's like, some of the worst times, you look at the United States or any country really that had this Shemitah cycle coming up and happened to have the largest amount of debt that country has ever had at that time, it usually went pretty bad. So he says, what about our country right now? We have $18 trillion in just a deficit. That's the highest it has ever been. And at the rate that it's going, it's just going out of control. So he says, I feel this is going to be where they deal with that, so to speak. So what I've started thinking is, okay, so the club likes to write off their debts by destroying things so that you can never go and get and ask for something to prove that debt was there, such as like when, Building 7 of 9/11 fell and had a ton of investigative material in there, financial related, definitely, from the savings and loan crisis, or Iran-Contra, the WorldCom scandal, the Enron scandal, some other banking things that were being investigated, went bye-bye. So that was their cleansing on their cycle. So I thought, well, this is the big one, and Lindsey Williams already said it's going to be the derivatives that take down the economy of the world, and they're going to do it by messing with the interest rate, because most derivatives are tied to some type of interest rate. So if they change what he said they would do a couple years ago, and they did a test run, and I looked at the exact date he said, and he was right, because I saw it in the news. And then it went back to normal after the weekend happened and Monday came. The rate came back down. Everything was fine. I looked that up. And that was, I think, in 2013. And he said the interbank lending rate is the tool that they will use, because they changed that interest rate. And again, all other derivatives tied to other financial lending, rates, interest rates, they're all going to blow up, basically, the derivatives. And since they're in the hundreds of trillions, some say even more than 1,000 or a quadrillion in total, not that that matters, it could be a few hundred trillion, it's already way too much for the whole world to deal with. So, again, my thought here is, okay, they're going to destroy that debt somehow to where we're not going to be able to point the finger at them and say, hey, here's some evidence, here's this, here's that. They're going to destroy it. So they're going to destroy these derivatives products. And when it's all said and done, we're going to try to find out, well, who owned what, and who did that, and who had this much. And I started thinking, wait a minute, remember the old 55 Water Street, Seed & Co., part of the DTCC, Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, that houses all financial instruments, paper, such as bonds, stocks, shares of companies, you know, and of course, derivatives. And that strange little Hurricane Sandy that was going to the right, busted a sharp left at the last minute. And the next couple days, we find out news reports the DTCC building at 55 Water Street, somehow its vault got massively flooded by waters from Hurricane Sandy, and quote-unquote significant damage had been done. And as the cleaning process started, a fire took place, causing more damage. So if you believe that it was an act of God and they just happened to leave the vault door open that's not waterproof and not fireproof, I could buy a $300 safe that's vault-proof and fireproof easily. Waterproof and fireproof. But you're going to tell me that this building that housed trillions in dollars of assets didn't have a top quality vault in place. Now, or man, the janitor must have left the door open. So, if you believe that, you're a moron. I'll just flat out say it. You're an absolute moron if you think that was some kind of accident, they accidentally left the door open. As I mentioned, there was a girl on YouTube that had the NextRad radar station, basically screen video of it, and shows right as this hurricane's busting a right turn, all of a sudden there's these massive chemtrails that are showing up, they're so huge, on the radar as like small clouds in straight perfect little comb teeth lines, like 4 or 5 of them, huge as far as being able to pick up on radar is concerned. And then all of a sudden, right where those things were, the hurricane follows right through there. You ever heard of cloud seeding and that type of thing? We've had weather technology since Vietnam. We made it downpour when we needed to in Vietnam. So don't tell me for 1 second that all these, 40, 50 years later, we don't have any better technology. We can only make it rain still. We can't, change the way a hurricane or some storm's path is by changing whatever it is. Pressure or heat, temperature, whatever is in these damn chemtrails. Because the coincidence of that being a coincidence of these huge chemtrail lines right in the path of where this storm is and leading it to the left to go to New York, and then finding out that the most important building on the face of the earth for the whole entire world's financial system gets flooded by this storm and loses significant amounts of paperwork, but they said that we do have digital copies, so we're good. Okay. And then a fire starts in the same vault after it got flooded. Okay. Again, etc., etc., etc. So I thought to myself, when this derivatives crisis goes down, the bankers take the entire world's economy down, they can't have evidence left over for us to figure out that they've done this. Just like the previous times. So now I feel like I can say with certainty, I know why that building, the DTCC at 55 Water Street, named Seed & Co., got flooded, and the financial instruments are missing and destroyed. It's so that when they pull this trigger and destroy the world's economy, their debt gets wiped away. All that stuff gets wiped away in the process too, along with your 401k and everything else. But you're not going to be able to point and figure out and file lawsuits to figure out who owned what and show me the original paperwork on this and that. Well, we don't have it. It got destroyed in the storm. So it's not going to be where you and I have some kind of jubilee. Oh, you have credit card debt or you have a mortgage or anything like that. It's going to get wiped away too. No. Did it get wiped away in 1987 or the Great Depression or the 2000 tech bubble, 2008, 7 and 8 crisis? No. But a lot of their stuff gets wiped away. Now, theirs didn't necessarily get wiped away in the 2008 crisis. They got a massive bonus. Remember the TARP funds, and then all of a sudden the Federal Reserve just giving out on its own balance sheet, money to the big banks. I remember hearing, and I did a video on this, that the two executives' wives from Morgan Stanley, I think they were both from Morgan Stanley, were directly received basically a zero or again near zero interest rate from the Federal Reserve itself. They didn't go to some bank because and say I need a loan. They went to the Federal Reserve itself, and the Federal Reserve gave them a huge loan at near 0% interest rates, so that they can then take that money and invest it in school loans and things of that sort, which can't be defaulted on, to make millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, to then easily pay back the loan money it got from the Federal Reserve. Because if I gave you tens of millions of dollars, and I think either in total or each of them, these wives got $20 million, or in total it was like $26 million or something. And they invested that into these student loans and whatnot, the ones that can't be defaulted on, and other things like that. So they got their money back, because if they get any interest on that stuff, it's fine, because they got it for nothing and can easily pay it back. So at what point do we say, okay, is that what the Federal Reserve is supposed to be doing? Is it supposed to be lending its friends money that it couldn't, you and I couldn't apply at the Federal Reserve for a loan, a zero or near zero interest rate loan, and say, hey, I'm JSnip4 from YouTube. I've been exposing you, as a matter of fact. Can I have a loan? No, we don't do that here, kid. Go to a bank. Go to one of our club members. Yeah, but you gave their wives and their separate company a loan, and I saw that. I did a video on that. No. Oh, that's right. I'm exposing you. You're really never going to help me now, anyways. So I just feel like that event with the flooding of the DTCC building is going to be used so that when the derivatives crisis happens, it wipes away, evidence is gone, of the elites' debts and who owned what and how they did this and how they did that. You're not going to be able to pull anything. It's going to be gone, and you're going to find out, oh, this happened years ago when Hurricane Sandy happened. So that you can't make the connection that several years later, when the economy gets dumped on, those two incidences were related, and they were actually doing things in advance to cover their tracks for when the event happens, which also means they knew about this collapse that hasn't happened yet, that's going to happen way back when, and we're preparing for it. Which also means that more proof that we know that they had this planned all along, and it is an agenda, and they are following through with it. It's not going to be some act of God. It's not going to be Iran hacking into the banking system and causing derivatives destruction. It's not going to be Syria, and the ISIS army has now infiltrated the internet and wiped away derivatives contracts and bank records, and your 401k was attached to it. Whatever story they try to give you as to how and why this happens is what I'm saying. Which will be, I don't care how bad it is, I don't care how emotional you get, thinking of, oh, they couldn't have done this, oh my God, they just took out the, what was that dam I'm waiting for them to pull? The Hoover Dam. And all these things Lindsay said in advance, look in the movies, they'll show it to you what they're going to do in the future. And I can give you so many examples. And when I look, I say the longest example I could find of when they showed it in a movie from it actually happening was 9/11. There's some stuff that was showing 9/11 Many, 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 many years before that happened. But ever since then, other things that have happened shortly after the movie came out. And there just so happens to be a movie coming out with The Rock, Dwayne, whatever his last name is. It comes out June or July of this year, in which I saw the preview of him flying around a helicopter and destruction has hit LA. And the Hoover Dam is affected and is destroyed and flooding, massive damage. And I said, oh, that's right. I also forgot. If you take all of the dollar bills, $10, $20, $5, all that stuff, and fold it in that certain little pattern, it shows all of these major events. It shows 9/11, the Twin Towers, shows the Pentagon smoking from the plane crash. I mean, again, if you're the elite and you can put little hidden symbolism and stuff, they've been doing this for a long time. It's nothing new. It's just the technology's gotten so much better, they can do it a lot better. However, that's been uncovered. There's one problem. The $50 bill shows what appears to be a spitting image of the Hoover Dam flooding massively on the dollar bill as you flip that $50 bill. If you look at Jonathan, I think his name is The Jonathan Kleck on YouTube, and look up his stuff. Just look up like that name and then Hoover Dam. And he'll show you. And just by chance, the most demonic, devil-worshipping type of structures and artwork are actually sitting on top of the Hoover Dam as you walk by as a tourist, including the demon, goat-headed, devil thing. Yeah, I'm not making that up. You can actually go see that. So the question is, when's that event going to be triggered, and which patsy fake terrorist group that the United States created will be blamed for it? Like they always do. Is it ISIS? Is it ISIL? Are they going to bring the Taliban back? Are they going to bring Al-Qaeda back? Because we haven't heard of those guys anymore. All of a sudden, they just went away. You don't even hear about them really anymore. Just kind of went away. Now all we hear is ISIS and ISIL. And it's an interesting name. Oh, no, it stands for the Islamic State. Okay. But wasn't ISIS related to Horus way back in the day? Like Egyptian times? And this is these again, occult, mythical god stuff that the elite love. Just like all these obelisks that you see in these movies and these symbols. Well, that's ancient stuff, Egypt stuff too. And that's also something that the elite, for whatever reason, I'm not sure why, are all over, and they like that. So the question remains, when's it going to happen? Because you know they're going to do it. It's coming out in a movie here shortly. It's on the freaking $50 bill, and everything else on the dollar bills to date have already happened. And it's their way of putting stuff right in front of you, saying you're too stupid to even notice it. Just like in the movies, you're focused on the two characters they've got zoomed in. You're looking at them having this conversation of importance. Oh, yeah. And then behind them on the wall is some massive, Illuminati symbolism that you're not paying attention to because your entertainment mind wants to see what these two guys are arguing about, and that's what these are the two main characters of the movie. What are they doing? Just look behind them and you'll see some interesting stuff. Oh, I didn't know that. You can go back and watch a ton of movies and see stuff like that. It's like a gang member tagging a wall with his little symbol, hey, MS-13 or the Blood or the Crips or whatever it is. Except we can all drive by and see this graffiti on the wall. Oh, okay. The elite, on the other hand, it blends right into the wall, and you actually use the wall every day, not knowing that it's even there. And then somebody like me tells you to look at it this way, and you can actually see these things, and they stand out, and they're absolutely their symbols. They're quote-unquote gang signs. And it seems crazy. Yet you can go and do that, and it's there. So then your mind is telling you, am I crazy? Am I also crazy? Because I do see what he said. Oh my God, this is true. So all I can say is, we're going to have to wait and see what happens with the old Hoover Dam. And anything else, the derivatives contracts. I mean, they could knock down the economy and simultaneously say we were attacked by terrorists at the same time. They hit us when we were weak, and oh my God, it's worse to be because of that. And the average American and everyone across the world is going to believe this and buy it hook, line, and sinker, because the alternative that, oh my God, this was staged and done on purpose, it's too great for even whatever mindset anyone has to even think that that was a possibility that some other human being, much less people related to your country, did and pulled off. It's like trying to find your mother and father and accepting that they were both murderous serial killers, and the proof finally has come out that indicts both of them. And you entire your life living with them, they were the sweetest, nicest parents. You never saw signs of anything. So you're saying, I don't believe this, period, and I won't believe this. I think my parents were set up. No matter how good the proof is that they caught them. Because that's my parents, that's my people. Right? This is my country, my government. They would never do these things, or would they? You better take a closer look at Sandy Hook. You better take a closer look at the Boston Marathon bombing with the fake blood and the lady with her purse and a little hose spraying it on the ground, and it drenches down her leg, and she can't turn it off, so her entire right leg becomes a massive blood fest, who another crisis actor notices and says, okay, you're not going to be a victim because your purse won't shut off, and pulls her to the side. A nice high-res photo snap. There's this wonderful guy helping this poor lady, and inside the photo, we can see her little hose sticking through her purse. Uh-oh, oops. So if they're capable of doing that, and there's other Americans capable of doing that, as crisis actors gladly, willingly doing these things to deceive you and cause, this is treason. Don't think for 1 second they can't and won't go to the next level, because everything that keeps happening is in fact the next level. It remains to be seen how and when they're going to pull all this off. But I will tell you, anybody alive during this time period, this will go down in the entire world's history books as probably the most powerful events in all of time that happen to be around the same time as each other. It'll be one for the history books of the world. That in itself is interesting, but yeah, if I could choose another time to live in, I might want to go way out into the future and then wake up and say, hey, how did that go? What happened when I was cryogenically slept for 30 years? What happened back then? Any interesting stuff? But we're all here now. We're all going to have to deal with it. And I can't be cryogenically frozen because I got to keep reporting to the people to keep them informed on things that are going to be taking place. Take care.